Hey, today is April 13th, and I'm going to be reviewing the four trades I took today. Uh, First one was on Facebook, second one was on Baba, and the last two were on Tesla. So as always, let's start with the daily time frame. First stock I traded was Facebook, and you can clearly see that Facebook broke all-time highs. It's been holding pretty well. It's kind of choppy in this area, but definitely have a bullish bias on it. I mean, we pulled back to daily demand, and now we're starting to head higher. So I marked all-time highs here just in case we got to this level and if there were any setups around it. So let's start off with a 5-minute time frame. So Facebook was my one red trade for the day, and this trade could have easily been avoidable. I actually forgot to mark up a supply zone, and that kind of cost me today. I think it was this 30-minute supply. Yeah, right here. So we had formed a 30-minute supply a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, and uh, I was thinking to myself that this is a lower time frame supply. Yes, it was a nice rally based drop, but um, for some reason it just didn't register with me, and I told myself that okay, I'm just gonna ignore the supply zone, and I mean I paid the price for that. The reason I entered was uh, Facebook didn't have clear relative strength right off of market open. But what I saw was this somewhat consistent volume. It wasn't super consistent. It was actually decreasing volume, but for some reason I thought Facebook had caught momentum, and a break above 314 could easily trigger a move higher to all-time highs. And if I can go back quickly, you can see that 314 has acted as resistance the last couple of days. We come up on Wednesday, acts as resistance here. Uh, on Friday, acts as resistance here as well. Um, it chopped around in this area, but still, buyers could not get us over 314. And then today, we come up in supply, and we reject this 314 key level. So there wasn't really much to it. I was sitting on my hands for 30 minutes, and it wasn't that I wanted to enter a trade. I was pretty patient despite the fact that I missed some good setups in the morning. But for some reason, I thought Facebook caught momentum, and I didn't look at the full picture. I mean, we had decreasing volume. I didn't even know we had supply here. And another thing to keep in mind is that my entry was a little bit chased. And the reason for that is the start of this 5-minute candle started at 312.6. And 314 and up to 314 is a $1.50 move. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm chasing a stock. I'm buying when it's already up $1.50 without any period of consolidation. Uh, but even though I chased, I mean it was still okay. But the main thing to keep in mind was that we had formed 30-minute supply in this area, and if I knew we had 30-minute supply in this area, I would have never taken the trade. But I missed this zone in the morning, so I just gotta be a little bit more attentive and careful when I draw my zones in the morning. But nonetheless, I can quickly highlight my exact entry. It was a My exact entry was a break of this 314 key level right here. And then as soon as this closed below 314, which was my stop then, I exited right when this next candle started to form, because at this point we had amazing volume, but we couldn't close above this 314 level, and we had a upper wick. So I told myself that okay, I don't think we're getting above 314, so I'm just gonna take the small loss. And I took a very small loss on this, so it didn't really affect my account at all. But just some lessons to keep in mind. Don't long in supply unless we base out. Maybe if we held value in here and then came up and tried breaking 314 on good volume and good momentum, then definitely 314 over 314 would have been an excellent play, targeting all-time highs and higher. But that wasn't the case, and that may set up a little bit later in the week. So that's just something to keep an eye on. My next trade was on Baba. I profited off of it yesterday as well. Baba's just been very good to trade to the long side lately, and the reason for that is, mm, so Baba, just the tendency of it is that it's a very gappy stock. So when it gaps, for example here and here, it tends to run higher. Uh, so yesterday, Baba gapped up $14 in pre-market and had an amazing move on the daily candle. So I was looking for some sort of continuation. We didn't have supply all the way till 250, and I knew that 245 was a key level. So going into the going into the morning today, I was thinking that if we get over 245, we can easily see 250 if market conditions permit. So let me start off. Let me go down to a 5 minute time frame, and you can see that the market was actually really choppy today, and that's why a lot of these setups didn't have the follow through I wanted. But uh, we dipped down into 45-minute demand. I guess if you wanted to enter, I mean, in an entry could be somewhere in here. I honestly don't see too much confirmation going long in demand, and my style really isn't to go long into demand. Occasionally I will, but it's usually to follow the trend and use supply and demand zones as areas of caution and profit targets. But we did bounce off nicely off demand, come down, test VWAP, start moving higher, and the important thing to keep in mind is throughout all of this, Baba had pretty consistent volume. A lot of the equities, such as Apple, AMD, had decreasing volume. Let me quickly show you what I mean by that. So let me go to Microsoft. I drew this trend line too. Microsoft is clearly decreasing in volume and hence no follow through. But on Baba, you can see that we held volume somewhat nicely. It did decrease, but this is what caught my eye when we started to increase in volume right here. Just highlight that. Right here, you can see that these three candles were increasing in volume towards the 245 key level break. So an increase in volume towards a key level is basically telling me that new buyers are interested and are willing to pay the higher price to get in immediately. So this is really what caught my attention. A lot of the equities, this was around 10:30, 10:35, and you can see that ES and NQ were both chopping around. There wasn't too much direction on it, but Baba did have volume. It had momentum. So I'm thinking to myself that okay, this can set up nicely. And also we didn't have a key level or supply until 250. So Baba definitely had room to run higher. So as I talked about, my confirmations were a bounce off of demand, increasing volume and momentum, and a break of the 245 key level. So I'll talk about where exactly I entered. I kind of front run the break because I was pretty confident. So I entered right here, took off my first contract, somewhere around here, and then stopped out of my second contract for actually a small loss right here. Yeah, so my entry was here. I made a nice 50-60 cents on my first contract. Wanted to protect myself on the way up, and then moved my stop to break even, and then got stopped out for like a $5 loss. So uh, pretty much break even. Uh, One thing I want to talk about in this trade is I know a lot of members in the group actually lost on this trade, and I mean, it really just depends on where your stop is, where your take profit is, and where your stop loss is. Uh, I know a lot of people entered right here at the 245 break, and in that case, yeah, I guess if your stop was a 5 minute close, then you would have stopped out at 1035 for a small loss. And the reason why I front run this break is because uh, this may look like chasing, but as I talked about a couple of videos ago, this bottom wick right here. Let me change the color to just so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so actually, let me change the transparency too. Sorry about that. I'm putting this in blue because this is a very, very important lesson which I want some people to be aware of. Shit, and then change the transparency. So I don't know why it's not okay. It's fine, but uh, we had this nice lower wick right here, and to me, what this is saying is that Baba had a nice move up, a nice volume, and then pulled back about 50 cents before buyers decided to move it higher again. And this is the same exact thing which happened on Microsoft a couple of days ago. So when we have this nice lower wick and we start moving higher, this wick itself is our pullback for a move higher. So I know a lot of people were looking for a rally type of continuation, but I was comfortable getting in after we had this nice lower wick and started moving higher. So I front run the break a little bit and it paid off because the contract spiked immediately. I immediately take one off because I'm nice, and then I stop out for break even. One last thing I want to talk about on this trade is to not look at your profit and loss and just focus on the chart itself. Uh, I remember at one point I'm up like 140, 150 bucks, and I'm like, that's a lot of money. I could just take my money off here and call it a day. But what if the market wasn't choppy and we started moving up $2, $3 more on the equity? Well, the option contracts would have doubled. I would have been up $500, $600, and I would have missed out on that potential run. So, yes, I was up 150 at one point. I ended up closing the position for like a $47 gain, which is nowhere near 150. But I mean, in other days, it could have easily ran. Actually, yesterday, for example, let me go back to it. Okay, actually, I don't want the video to be too long, but yesterday it was the same exact thing. I sold one contract and I let the other one ride, and that's what was able to help me gain over like 120, 130 bucks yesterday. Because I didn't look at my profit and loss. I just looked at the chart, and that's how I was able to make my decision. Okay, so finally, let me go to Tesla. Tesla, I want to talk about some entries which I didn't really miss, but I still think they were decent entries to take. Right off of the bat, Tesla has relative strength. I mean, we have huge volume. Eh, My computer's kind of laggy, but this 930 candle, I was comparing it to a couple of days ago. This was almost 50% more than some of the previous days candles. Like this is what I'm talking about. Friday 930 is around 0.5, Monday it's around 0.6, and today it's almost double that. So buyers are clearly interested in Tesla. We gap up and we're moving higher, so that's just a clear sign of bullish action. We're riding VWAP, and we had a key level at 719. I didn't enter at 930 because I don't trade the first 5 minutes. Option contracts move all over the place. and I didn't really want to enter at this 935 candle at the pullback of 719, just because it was way too early in market open. I didn't really have enough data to make a decision. But right here around 9:40, 10, you can see that ES and NQ are consolidating while NQ is holding, well, while Tesla is holding value. So at this point, I'm thinking that, okay, if we can pull back to 719, um, uh, and not close below it and hold value above 719, um, I'm looking to enter. But obviously, this pullback didn't even make it to 720, so I didn't get the pullback I wanted, and hence I wasn't able to trade. I didn't take any high day breaks here just because we had supply here and my risk to reward would have been messed up. We chop around in supply, and this is where I took two quick scalps on Tesla. So we had a key level around 739, and you can clearly see that 739 acted as resistance intraday multiple times. One candle, 2, 3, 4, 5, or around 6 to 7 times. 739 acted as a key level intraday resistance. Not once did we have a 5-minute close above it. Tesla has it has a really good volume. It's not decreasing, consistent volume. So where I enter is a 5-minute rally above 739. I entered. Actually, let me remove these so you don't get confused. But my entry and exit were both in this candle, and I'm going into this trade treating it as a scalp, just because look at ES. This was ES's candle. Let me highlight it. But this was a candle on ES. NQ is somewhere down here as well. So the market is choppy, and I acknowledge that. So I'm going to this trade treating it as a scalp. Tesla at this point is up 5% on the day. So the probability that we move to that we move higher is lower in my opinion. So as soon as this came above, I took it, and as soon as this started rejecting, I took it off for like a $10 gain. I think this was a decent trade. Tesla could have had more follow through, but ultimately it didn't, and that's good because I was going into it treating it as a scalp. My second trade on Tesla was this 15-minute RBNR, and this is where I started to think, given this amount of data, that okay, Tesla has nice volume. I don't want to treat this as a scalp now because we had 15 minutes of consolidation, and longer consolidation periods means we have longer impulse moves. So we were able to move nicely from around 710 to around 740 without any real period of consolidation on the 15-minute time frame. So imagine now that if we have one 15-minute consolidation period and buyers are able to hold value, we definitely have a possibility to move higher. So I entered somewhere around 738, 739. Immediately I get the move in my favor. Let me go back. So this period right here is a 15-minute basing period. I entered I think I entered and exited both on this candle. And the reason why is because I entered around 739, and as soon as I got this move in my favor, my stop profit was a close below 739, and that's exactly what happened. So that's why I exited and entered both. Some can argue that I entered around 890 and my contracts were at 990, but I'm only playing one contract on Tesla, so it's really hard for me to scale out. If I take my contract off, then I'm out of my full position, and I miss the possibility of Tesla running higher. So yes, at one point I was up over $100, but in the end, I'm only focusing on the chart. I don't care too much about the profit and loss. And I end up closing my position for about a $5 loss, which is break even. I guess some can argue that Tesla's up 5%, so have a more scalping mentality. And yes, the market is choppy, so have a scalping mentality. And I did have a scalping mentality going into my first trade, but for some reason I thought that Tesla could have moved higher because it consolidated longer. either way, I managed my risk well, and I'm not too disappointed about my Tesla trades because I still think that they were decent trades for me to have taken. Obviously, that Facebook trade I reviewed is something I want to avoid. Kind of unlucky that I didn't mark up supply, but I just got to be a little bit more attentive. And Baba was probably my best trade for the day, and it didn't have the follow through I wanted. And I mean that's fine because the market isn't always going to give you the follow through that you want. But I'm gonna end the video here, and I think today's a Tuesday, so we still have a couple of more days left. The week's been pretty good for me, so I definitely don't want to give back any profits.